Welcome to Rocket Ship, the podcast where web developers learn the skills and secrets to ship awesome mobile apps. I'm Simon Grimm, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today's guest is a fellow German developer, Benedikt Müller, who's actually not living in Germany anymore, but in Singapore right now. So welcome to the podcast, Benedikt.
Hi, Simon. Thank you.
Benedikt is currently a lead solution engineer at Salesforce, but he's been on parental leave for about almost 2 years at this point, and he's doing some pretty cool indie hacking projects. He has built the Feld app, which helps to create applications with AI, and he just released his latest application, Share My Stack, where you can share your technology stack. So after a lot of episodes talking about we had Storybook and we had Tamagui on this podcast, I'm really happy to dive into a developer and his stories once again. So maybe we can start by getting into your story. I saw you work for IBM, for Accenture, for Salesforce, so a lot of big names. How did you get into programming, and how did you end up at Salesforce? Give us the short, condensed version of your career.
Yeah, I'll try to make it short. Sure. So I guess like many programmers, I started back in school. So when I was still going to high school, I came to programming. I started making websites using, what was it called? Front Page, Microsoft Front Page.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first experience in making websites, and just first for myself, and then I started doing a website for the local church, and then I was engaged in Scouts, so I did a website for the Scouts. Actually did my first kind of mobile, it was not a mobile app, but mobile experience back then, because we used to go to Scout camp in summer, and I built something where you could, we had a cell phone, which didn't have real internet, I guess, but it already had email. So I built a tool where we would take a picture, which was, of course, a very crappy picture back then. I think this was 2007 or something, or even earlier. No, it must have been crazy. 2005 even, or 2004. And we emailed the picture to an email address, and I wrote a server app that would pass these emails and create a blog. So yeah, I was always building stuff already during school. And then after school, I went to work in an internet agency. So I built web apps in a company, and also went to study at the same time. So I went to university, studied, but I studied more business and technology, so not really computer science. And that's also what then brought me to IBM, because I always had an interest not only in the tech itself, but also in the business side of things. So I think one of my strengths was always to see both sides, and also to be able to talk both of those languages, right? To talk to business people and try to understand what they need and want, and then also translate it into what does it mean in terms of technology.
Yeah.
And then I found the perfect job for this combination from my point of view at IBM, which was technical sales, like they called it, or solution engineering, like they call it at Salesforce. Every company has maybe a slightly different term, but it basically means you are aligned with sales. So in the end, it's about selling software to a customer, but you are not the primary salesperson. That's someone else. You are more like the translator, I like to call it, between business requirements and then software and what the software can do. So yeah, that's what I did at IBM.
That definitely sounds like a very interesting role. It's because I think sales is we all have a picture of how sales looks and how it works, and it sounds like you're basically second level after sales, but you're also not really doing the implementation. You're more planning the implementation and telling everyone what's the right way to implement this.
Yeah, exactly. It's also a different skill set, right? I think I wouldn't be very good in pure sales, because it's very much like a job which consists of only talking to people, right? And I'm not afraid of talking to people, but I also I'm not that outgoing like most salespeople are, right? So that's a good compromise for me between still being out there talking to business users and also decision makers, but also then having this time where you sit in front of the computer and try to figure out technical stuff and learn new technologies, which is always something that like drives me to learn new stuff and see where the puck is going in the tech world. So yeah, I found it a really interesting and perfect combination for me. So that's what I discovered at IBM, and I did it for quite some time. I think all in all, like 6 years, with a little like in between. I went to Accenture because I wanted to be more on the implementation side after being more on the sales side for so long. I wanted to see, after we sell a project, what's really happening, right? So what does the project look like in the real world? How do these things get implemented? That's what I went to Accenture for. But to be honest, I quickly discovered this was interesting, yes, but it was not my passion like the things I was doing before. So I actually went back to IBM. I'm glad that they took me back and continued in tech sales. And then after a couple of years, I went to Salesforce because they really I really liked their approach. They were like one of the first real cloud companies where the software was not just some on-prem software that was like transformed into the cloud or brought into the cloud. This was software that was born in the cloud, right? And one of the first cloud solutions. So that was something very interesting. And also, it's a very interesting topic from my perspective because Salesforce does all the stuff that has to do with the customer, right? From sales, service, marketing. So you can work with companies that you are yourself a customer of, right? That you know because you shop in their online shop, you get their newsletters, you see their marketing, and then you can work with them to improve that. So that was something that was very sounded very interesting to me and made me switch jobs.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely found a perfect fit there. Also, two things I just wanted, because I took some notes. First is, I feel like a lot of people made their first real applications for churches, and I think it's like a very good way to kind of get started. If you can't find like a paying gig in the beginning, but still want to do something useful, it doesn't have to be like a church, but some local group or community. I feel like just doing something for them, or like the tennis club or you're part of, doing a booking system or whatever. It's a great way to get started with like your own project. And the second thing
absolutely.
It's a nice example that you made by quitting the job at IBM, which you thought was probably perfect to pursue this role at Accenture, and then noticing that's not for me and going back. Because some people feel like quitting a job is like a life or death decision. And this is now like the second, third, fourth time that I see people quit for something to try it out and then actually go back to their initial company. Just my best friend here did it as well. He wanted to work for a startup, and then he noticed very quickly, no, that's not for me. And he also got back. So yeah, it's not always a life and death decision to quit one of your jobs. It can be, of course, maybe they don't take you back, but in a lot of cases, it's good to pursue what you want to do. But it looks like you actually haven't done what you did at Salesforce for the last 2 years, as you've been more of an indie hacker over the last years. You also moved to Singapore. Maybe you can quickly touch upon why you decided to move to Singapore, and then we can get into some of your apps that you built over that time.
So moving to another country was actually something that my wife and I always were planning to do. Since we met in university, basically. And we always kept postponing it because the time always didn't seem right. First, we wanted to... that's something we then figured out after a couple of years, that timing is never right. So then we said, okay, we just go, okay? And then COVID hit, so then the timing was really not right. So we had to wait for another year. But then, we finally... did it. And of course the question was always, how do we do that? if you go with two people, it's like you have to see, do you both find a job there, for example? And what we came up with in the end is that my wife took a job in Singapore. She's a teacher, so she's teaching at an international school here. And we decided that she had taken parental leave before. So back at home, I was working. And after we got kids, she stayed at home for a while and then worked part-time after that. And when we decided to go to Singapore, we decided also to switch roles to have her work full-time again and me being the primary caretaker, like they say. It
sounds so technical, right? Basically, you're a dad. You're doing what a dad should do.
I'm a full-time dad, yeah, right. To answer your question, I'm an indie hacker. I live in Singapore, but I'm also first and foremost a full-time dad, which is I wasn't expecting it to be easy. I have a lot of respect for the role of primary caretaking. I know that it is different from the secondary one, which I was always very involved, but still it's different if you are the one that has to also have all the stuff in your head, like doctor's appointments and whatever that is, right? I didn't expect that it is easy, but I still have to admit that I was not prepared for it fully, right? So it was a challenge, definitely, switching the roles like this. But of course, also it meant that, I do have some free time on my hand because kids go to school here or in kindergarten, so they are in school during the day. And then, there's stuff I have to take care of, but there's also time to do my own projects. And that is something that I'm extremely grateful for because although I love my job and I talked to you about how this was the perfect role or still is the perfect role for me, I was always still building stuff on the side because I always had my own ideas and also like technical things that I wanted to learn and try out that were not necessarily required for my job, but that I was just interested in. And now for the last 2 years, I just could follow this passion and build up my skills even more. Because I did programming on the side always, but it had been some time since I was really full-time programming. And also back before I went to IBM, when I worked in the web agency that did web applications, I still did everything in PHP and HTML. I did notice the shift towards JavaScript. So I was already working with JavaScript and TypeScript during my time then at Salesforce. But there was still a lot to learn for me in terms of React and then also, of course, React Native, which I went into as well and adopted.
So you created 2 applications, as far as I can see, or 2 projects. You also, I quickly want to mention this up front because I think they deserve to be noticed. You also made 2 React community packages, which were somewhat successful or popular. So the one being the React Native app clip, which you can use with Expo, as far as I know. I think I never used an app clip. Could you just let me know what an app clip actually is or does?
Yeah, they are surprisingly rare. So when Apple introduced them, I think it is already 2.5 years ago, maybe, that they were introduced, or even 3 years. I really thought it was a brilliant idea. So what they are actually is you can make basically a very stripped down version of an iOS app, which the user can use without installing. So the whole idea is that you somehow invoke the app clip, which could be done via a QR code, for example. So I think their demo example at WWDC in the presentation was you go into a restaurant or I think it was a smoothie shop or something, and you want to order or you want to join their membership program, and then they want you to use their app right then and there. But of course, you don't want to go through the process of downloading an app, installing, and so on. So you scan a code that is maybe at the register, and you scan the code, and the app opens immediately without any installation. And that is basically what app clips are. So they are restricted in size. I think when they started, it was like 10 megabytes. They have since increased the limit with every iOS version, because obviously like 5G and good cellular service are now very spread. So they increased the limit. But yeah, they haven't really seen a lot of adoption for I don't know which reason. I still find the idea interesting.
How does it work? Like, is your phone downloading this tiny package because Apple registered this package with the app clip, and then you can use it, and if you close it, it's gone, or is it like somewhere stored on the device then?
It's of course downloading the app, so it's like I think you can compare it a bit to streaming. Like in the past, you had to download a video and then you watched it, and now you can just go to Netflix and stream. And this is the concept applied to apps, right? So you open the app, and because they limit the size, it's very small, so it should be there within like a second probably. So and then the functionality is a bit restricted. So for example, I think they make you use sign up with Apple, for example, in an app clip, because of course that's the most convenient way and fastest way, but also of course their preferred way for you to do this. So I think the idea is still, and then like you said, it disappears again. You can see it on your phone in the settings. I think you can see the past app clips. I think if you use an app clip, it has like in the following 12 or 24 hours, I'm not sure, it can still send you push notifications. So you can get back in there. If like maybe you started something that is more like a longer running process, like ordering something, and then you can still get updates and get back into the clip without using the original invocation, which was maybe a URL or a QR code. And then also you can like have a little banner in the app clip that brings you to the full app. So and they also make it seamless to upgrade. So if you logged in the app clip, for example, and then you say, okay, I like what I see and I want to use the full app, then you download the full app, and then in the full app, it should be like a seamless experience that you switch from app clip to full app.
Wow, this sounds really interesting. I think I never used anything like this, but just hearing the explanation from your side makes me think of different use cases I could implement this for real companies. Like there must be some also, like, if you just find it in the settings afterwards, it pretty much means that no normal person will find the app clip afterwards if it's not installed. But
it must
they're
have
definitely
some flaws,
interesting use cases.
Because it hasn't found much adoption.
Right. Yeah, the same is actually true for, or I don't know if it's true, but like 2 years ago, I played around with a service for generating passes on iOS. Because in the pass, if you just have a pass, you can also get push notifications. For example, I have the Vapiano, which is a restaurant chain here in Germany. And I don't have their application, but I have a pass on my lock screen, like where you have your credit cards and stuff, or the flight tickets. And they can actually send me push notifications just because I have that pass in my passport here. And I think there are also a lot of ways you could use that. And there was a company trying to do that, and you could, like, with a drag and drop editor, create these passes together and easily get them to users. So there's also another topic that not really heavily used. And I think it could actually be used a bit more. But anyway, you also have a second popular package, which is React Native Widget Extension. I actually just wanted to mention those two, but they seem to be... We could just make a whole episode on the two packages, I guess. Which is helping you to add live data in your widgets. I think you have an example where you have like football scores or something that you can display then in a widget. Is that the purpose of the React Native Widget Extension?
Yeah, so the example that I have in there is actually taken from OneSignal, which is like a service which allows you to manage like push notifications and in-app messages and stuff like that. And they do have an iOS example app, which includes a live activity. And what I'm doing with this package is like a live activity still needs to be written in Swift. You cannot do the live activity itself in React Native. But if you have a React Native app and you want to add a live activity, which you might even have, like you might have the Swift code or you write the Swift code, then it's still quite cumbersome to get this widget into the app. And what this extension does, it basically you take the Swift code, and that's why I just used something that's out there, in this case the one signal example. You basically take the folder with a few Swift files that they have in the example, and you drop it into the extension. You drop the folder into your app, and then you tell the extension the path to the folder, and then it will configure all the rest. So it will add the target for this extension, and it will also add like a native module that has the functions that allow you to communicate with the live activity. And their example is like a football score. Apple has an example live activity in their docs as well, which is like a pizza delivery, where you see like your driver is 10 minutes away and he's delivering 4 pizzas, for example. And that also works.
Yeah, and it shows once again that the React Native community is a small place. As I just saw next to you as a contributor is actually Fernando Rojo, who I plan to bring on the podcast in a few weeks, as well as he's doing Moti and all these other cool projects as well.
Oh yeah, he has so many projects. He's really great.
Right. Okay, so thank you so much, first of all, for those 2 contributions to the community. Now, let's talk about your applications, as I want to get a bit into the technology stack. Let's probably start chronological. We can maybe quickly talk about the first app, which was the Feld app, I think. As far as I've seen from the demo video, which, by the way, everyone should watch as it looks like highly edited. It looks really good. It is an app where you can basically create your own app with an AI voice command. Is that the right description of the project?
Yeah, I would say yes. It has evolved to this. So I started this almost like when I began my parental leave. So it's almost 2 years old now and still not published. I hope it will be someday. But yeah, it's a challenging project. So I was always interested in tools that allow people to build apps easily. And I started this with the idea that people could write a little bit of code to describe an app and I would generate the app. So it didn't start as an AI project. But then, of course, when ChatGPT came out, I realized that you don't even need to write the little bit of code to describe the app. You can just describe it in natural language now, and then ChatGPT generates the code or the package format that I defined, and then this generates the app. The idea was to allow people to generate mobile apps, not in the sense that you get an app where you have the code and then you maintain the code and deploy it. It should really be a very low barrier of entrance thing for people that just need a specific workflow or app where there's not a special app out there, but that are not like comfortable to go through the process of maintaining the code, even if it's maybe generated by something, then maintaining it and also deploying it, going through the App Store process. It was actually closely related to the app clip announcement from Apple, because I was already thinking about this. And then with app clips, I thought, now with an app clip, you don't even need to install anything, right? My idea was that you say what kind of app you need, and then you basically get a code which you scan, and the app that you just described opens on your phone without you having an Apple developer account, without you downloading anything from the App Store. You just there's only 2 steps. You say what kind of app you want, and then you are using the app on your phone, and there's nothing in between. This is the vision.
Okay, I highly enjoyed that vision, especially after your explanation of the app clip before. I totally now get what this app is about, and to be honest, I think the landing page does not do a good job of telling this story, because from the landing page, I got the impression that this is basically not a drag and drop app builder, but like a replacement with a bit of AI on top to like put together your app. And I assume that at some point I can download the code, or maybe they're like input fields that I can define, but AI generation of the app clip that I can then instantly use with a QR code. Maybe you should like clip this. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like a super interesting project.
Yeah, good feedback
so-
about the landing page. So I need to work on that.
No problem. So this definitely sounds interesting. Maybe because I know you're very open about all the technologies and projects you do. Could you take us a bit behind the scenes of how this actually works? You said already you're using ChatGPT, probably some prompt, but like, how are you generating the code? What is the whole tech stack? What is the website built with? Is it Next.js? What is the app and like everything? I want to get a bit technical here.
Yeah, sure. So the core idea basically is that the app exists in a format, which is a format that I specified myself, which is based on JSON, which basically describes how the app looks like and what it's doing. And then the app the app or the app clip that you are using is more like a container app, which takes this and then generates the interface on the fly, because you need something on your phone that is executing this app, and this is like the app, the mobile app that I'm building or that you would have in this app clip, and it's basically taking the metadata of this app to generate this app on your device, and this generation of this metadata is done either by ChatGPT and you providing a prompt, or by you writing code which is also describing the app, which is then generating the description. And what I'm currently working on.
Are you giving clear instructions to ChatGPT to like reply in the JSON format for like that you came up with?
Yeah, that's something like I have to say about the whole technology, this app, and that's also why it's taking quite a while, is of course this is all like changing very fast and there's new possibilities. And for me, like right now, the main reason to do this is that I'm technically interested in this, and that I want to build something that I'm like convinced of. And if there's new opportunities to do it better, I'm switching gears. So that's not the best model if you want to do something to make an income, for example, or to get something out there. So business-wise, it's not very clever. But yeah, right now, due to my situation, I can maybe a little bit afford to do that. But of course, I also want to see that I come to a point sometime where I can actually release this. So back to your question about the format. Microsoft released something like a couple of weeks or even months now, which is basically, I'm trying to remember the name. It's a project that is basically, you can describe in TypeScript the expected output that you need from ChatGPT. And then their library is handling basically generating a better prompt that is then handed to ChatGPT, and then also validating the reply. So I spend a lot of time to validate the reply from ChatGPT to see, like, is the JSON broken? So first I needed to check, is there any characters that aren't supposed to be there? Is there any like curly braces that are opened but not closed, and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And then also like checking is the format what I need. And then basically after I had done this, Microsoft came out with this library that is basically exactly doing this and much more and better. So yeah, now I'm using this.
But this sounds very interesting that we now already have like middle libraries or middlemen between me and ChatGPT. I thought like I don't need anything, but this is the first time I hear about this library from Microsoft, and it sounds totally like, yeah, I've seen that before, that I want a specific reply from ChatGPT and just not getting it. So using something in the middle to describe it, and then like that library handles it, makes totally sense.
Yeah.
For Feld, I assume that the plan is, or I don't know if you've already did this, but that there's like one Feld app on the App Store, which is launched. So you need like some ID to actually launch an app clip. And then like Feld is launching the container or package that the user defined. Is that how it would work technically under the hood?
Yeah, exactly. So there's only one app. And of course, like for many use cases, this is not the ideal solution, right? Because if you are if you are making an app with Feld, that means you don't have an app on the App Store that like people can find under your name. But with the app clip, for example, you have also this launch experience where you click the link or scan the QR code, and then it opens like a little preview window. And those you can actually configure in App Store Connect and also configure via an API. So I have this idea that like if you give your app a name and like an image, for example, this could be in the launch window. Like it would still say Feld, but it would look like a little bit like your app. And then also you could technically take the Feld app and just publish it in the App Store. So if there's really someone that is interested in like having it as their own app in the App Store, this would be something that could be done by cloning, basically taking the container app and hard coding a single app ID into it, right? So then you could have this container app, which would be then the container for only one single app in the backend, and publish it as that in the App Store. So, but that's all ideas for later so far.
Yeah, I also had an idea because you said login with Apple is the preferred way and available. I just had the flow of like scanning a QR code in a restaurant. It opens this cool app clip thing, which looks kind of native. Then you do a login with Apple, and the company, which used Feld to create this app clip, just gets the email from the login with Apple. So you're basically quickly joining their email list or newsletter by just using a login with Apple. So you don't even have to type in your email. I mean, there's like people can hide their email with login with Apple, but you still, as a restaurant, you have the ability now to contact that person. And they have like a nice, easier sign up for the newsletter way. You could connect this now and then to get a discount or something. But yeah, you know, I'm also like an indie hacker and love to think about these ideas. And this is just like at the edge of technology, like app clips and stuff, things people don't really use yet or haven't found a great way to use. So yeah, I love the idea of Feld in general. What is the backend technology? What is your backend, and what are languages that you use?
So it's all in TypeScript, backend and frontend. So because like in some regard this is a crazy project, right? Because the scope is ridiculous for one person usually, but
you could need a co-founder.
Yeah, that's something that so if there's anyone out there, something I'm thinking about. But also that's also kind of what motivates me with Feld, because a bit of the thing that I want to like prove with this or try with this is, I think it's incredible what you can build as a single person today, right? So I see all those startups with millions in VC fundings and teams of like 300 people, and there's certainly like areas where you need that, and many of them are doing. Sorry, my Siri is interrupting me. Probably also built by a team of 300.
3,000.
So I think today with the tools that we have with like React Native, with Expo, with ChatGPT helping you as kind of your co-founder as well, or co-programmer, I think you can do a lot as a one-man show, as a single person, which wouldn't have been possible like just a few years ago. So that's also something that I'm trying to explore, is like, can you build something that's really challenging and has a broad scope with like backend and front end and web and mobile, And can you do that as a single person? I think one of the ways that makes it possible is having one language that does all of that, right? I'm not switching between different stuff. I'm writing TypeScript. For the backend. So I'm using AWS CDK, Cloud Development Toolkit. So I'm basically using TypeScript to describe the infrastructure I need. So, and it's all serverless. So I describe like the APIs that I need, the database, the DNS, Lambda functions, everything that's in the backend is described in TypeScript. Then the backend itself, like the Lambda functions and stuff like that, is running in TypeScript. The website is in TypeScript. The mobile app is in TypeScript. So there's it's a big mono repo with lots of different projects like backend and mobile and web and a CLI. There's a CLI tool because as I said, it started with like you generate something where you write code, and I still want to keep this. I don't want this to be AI purely. So the big challenge right now is to somehow combine code and AI, right? So I want you to tell the AI what you need, and it generates like a basic app, but then you will have things where you want to like change things or add things, and this could be done by code. So, but how can you like start with AI and then continue in code, and then maybe use AI again to add something in the code? So you have like a back and forth between yourself and AI.
That kind of makes sense. I was thinking about if I have like these two options to maintain, start with AI or start with code, that's like a very strong separation. Like people who want to use AI to define an app are definitely not the people who want to use a CLI or install a CLI and define something. But yeah, starting with AI and then moving into code if you need to fine tune, that could definitely be a flow that works. We already covered a lot in the first 30 minutes, and I want to get into your other application as well. So what's the release plan for Feld? Is there like any date you hope it will be somewhat live?
No, I don't have anything that I can point to, which is part of the reason, or which is the big reason for the other app as well, because the Feld will take a while. I'm changing stuff as well. I did a major rewrite to incorporate offline first, which we can talk about in regard to Share My Stack.
Yes.
So yeah, I changed a lot of the architecture as well, which again was something like if there was like a release date and you have to keep it, then you would be better informed to just stick with what you have. But if like it's both a blessing and a curse that I don't have like the pressure to release it to a certain date. So if I think that there's much better ways to do it, I'm going to allow myself to rewrite big parts of the code and do that. Yeah. So yeah, but
yeah, it's definitely it's like a sin among indie hackers to take like a year to work on a project, but on the other hand, your site looks really good. Like compared to other people who really ship fast or get feedback really quickly, I think this looks already very polished. I mean, your about page is not working or something, but you already have this nice little demo up. I don't know how big is the wait list already. Can you share numbers? It's
I think like 80 people. So it's not very big.
But it's like a very niche product. It's not like something everybody needs. But for those, it could be really interesting.
I wanted to mention, because you mentioned the demo video earlier, that's actually done in TypeScript as well. There's a really nice project out there, Remotion, which allows you to
from
programmatically
Johnny, right?
create video. Yeah, from Johnny. Yeah, it's an awesome project, and so the demo video is done in code as well. And it came with a nice idea as well, but I stopped working on that. It's actually the demo that you see in the video. I think the example I used in the video is someone saying that they need a restaurant management app or something, and then it creates the app to manage like booking tables and also recipes and stuff. That's all dynamic. So you can create the same demo video with like a different prompt, and then the demo video would have like a different, like you would hear different audio because it's text to speech. You would see
Cool.
the text in the video, and then also another app coming out at the end. So my plan was to have like 100 of these demo videos, and each of them with a different idea. I'll get to that once Share My Stack is launched.
Yeah. So many ideas, and I made to make a note to contact Johnny to bring him on as well.
That would be awesome.
So moving on from a Feld app to Share My Stack, which is your latest project. We're recording this a bit earlier, so you are gearing up towards the launch. But when the podcast is released, people can already check it out at sharemystack.com, at least hopefully. And tell me, what is Share My Stack about, first of all?
Yeah. So with this one, so with Feld, the idea came first, and then like this was something that I just had to do because I love the idea and the space I love. With Share My Stack, actually, my first thought was I want to do an app that I'm going to release on the App Store in the very near future, just to have something to show, to see that I can go through the whole process and not just start a project and then work on it for 2 years. And then so I thought about ideas that are like more manageable in scope, right? And then the idea itself was people like to share what tools they are using. So first it wasn't even about technology stacks. It came more out of the productivity space. So I'm kind of a nerd in the productivity regard. So I use Obsidian to have nodes and link them and follow some YouTubers that are talking about like having your second brain and how you manage your knowledge and optimize your learning. And in this whole productivity space, people like to share what tools they use. Like, what's your note-taking app? What's your email app? What's your calendar? And so my idea was to have an app that allows people to share what tools they use, to basically answer the question, what tools do you use for email, calendar, note-taking, whatever app it is, and also like to have it in the app to send it to someone, but also to generate images that you could share on social media. Because I saw on Twitter, for example, people making posts with listing their stack and then others commenting and listing their stack and saying, I'm using those tools. That was the idea for Share My Stack. And then with this one, really my main goal was to get it out quick. Now it has been a bit over 3 months now, I think, since I started it. And I got it on the App Store like after 2 months, I think, and started giving test flight links. So this one will launch on Sunday. So that's it's ready. I just have to press the button, and it's already being used by
Nice.
Some users. And one of the most common feedbacks from early users was they want to do multiple stacks. They don't want to just do a stack with their productivity apps, but because naturally many people that I knew and gave the test flight link to were developers. And they said, I want to use this to document that I'm using TypeScript, that I'm using Next.js, and that I'm using, VS Code and this and that terminal app, for example. That's something that I added. So now you can have basically different stacks, and I'm starting with productivity stacks and development stacks, but there's also other ideas already. I said earlier, my wife is a teacher, and she said that would be good because we are always talking about what are you using for classroom management and to create worksheets and stuff like that. So that could be a way for teachers to share the tools that they use. There could be a way for like creators to share what they use. But for now, it will start with productivity and development.
Yeah, I love the idea. I'm also a bit of a nerd when it comes to productivity, although I try to scale it down because I found like there's just so much you can do, and my credo has now become just give your best every day. And if I feel like at the end of the day I did my best, I did running, I ate good, I did some good work, then I feel good about the day, and I don't try to over optimize every minute of my life anymore. And I did that in the past, but it didn't really help me in the end. But Share My Stack definitely looks great. It looks like a manageable project more than Feld. And it's great that you're getting it out soon. Do you have any plans to monetize this in the future, or was this purely like maybe not fun, but yeah, just like working on something useful?
Yeah, so monetizing was definitely not the main intention. To some extent, it should be like a showcase for my work and help me talk about what I do, and also possibly attract like freelance contracts, for example. So I'm doing freelance work as well to earn an income. So that is something that I'm using this as well for, as like have a showcase basically for what I do. So in this regard, yeah, there is some aspect of monetization, but the app itself for now will be totally free. I do have some ideas how you could approach monetization. So a very simple one would be there's all those tools in there, and the tools link to the websites. So I could put in affiliate links. And then, of course, there would be the option to do like a pro version that has some additional features for people that are really into it. But to be honest, I like the idea of Share My Stack, and the feedback of people that tried it was really encouraging. But I also think it will not be like, it's not a big business somehow. Yeah, I don't have the illusion that this is something that I'm going to live off someday. That's something that Feld could maybe be if it gets over the finish line someday. But Share My Stack is more like a little fun project. Yeah, and if there's some if it helps me to recoup some money that I'm paying for services or for like hosting and stuff, then that would be nice. Yeah, but it's not meant as a business for now.
Yeah, but I still think that even if you consider this just as a free project, it looks better than most of the stuff I did. So both in terms of the app and the landing page, which is pretty clear, are you using any specific, just out of own curiosity, any template for the landing page, or is it like Tailwind, or what is it?
Yeah, for the landing page, and that is true for Feld as well. I can't take credit for the landing page because this is something where I'm proud of myself. Said, okay, this investing a lot of time in this wouldn't be a good use of my time, and I'm just going to go with a default template here. So yeah, they are both made with Tailwind. Tailwind has like as their monetization option, so to say, they have Tailwind UI, which is a template library.
Yes.
Which I bought like 3 years ago or something, and since then I'm using it for most of the stuff that I do, because it really looks good. It's totally easy, and yeah, of course the disadvantage is other people use it as well, so it's not totally unique, but that's fine for my needs.
Yeah, the Tailwind UI business model is totally ridiculous. I also paid for it like a few years ago, and I've used it so many times. They just keep adding stuff. I mean, they like last year they added e-commerce or something and made it like a paid upgrade, but still it was very inexpensive to just upgrade it to also get those templates. And I don't know how they make it work. But
I think all in all it was like $300 or maybe even $250 or something. So it was probably one of the best investments I ever made. Yeah,
100%. Same. So yeah, Share My Stack, although it is maybe just a funny side project, I think there's something very interesting. And although we're running a bit short on time, we should talk about this before we wrap up. And that is, you shared recently something that you are using React Native, of course, Expo. And then you're using offline first approach. You're using Watermelon DB and sync it to Supabase. And when I saw this, I was like, wow, yeah, that is actually really the perfect thing to do, because I'm a big fan of Supabase. I've worked with them a couple of times. They were sponsors of my content, and I just loved using them. And by the way, did you move to Singapore because you're closer to Supabase? Uh, but yeah, how does this work? Is it hard to set up? What is Watermelon? Just like explain the process a bit more, because I have never done anything like that.
Yeah. So maybe before talking about Watermelon specifically, let me just say what offline first means as a general concept. So the idea is basically that you have the data that you are working with in the app offline, and you are doing your operations like reading data, writing data offline first, and then you replicate or sync with a backend, which has multiple advantages. The obvious one being your app works while being offline. But that's not even the primary one for me, because basically you are almost never offline, right? And like,
Yeah.
I don't think people need to be using Share My Stack when they fly on an airplane, for example. It's not a business
I
critical
was on a cruise
application.
last week, and if you're on a cruise, you're also sometimes very lost.
Yeah, but I think you can manage like not updating your productivity stack when you are on the cruise. So so yeah, it's not my illusion that this needs to be available offline, but of course it also means everything you do is happening incredibly fast, right? Because that you have no
Yes.
internet is pretty rare these days, but that you have like a spotty connection or something, that is still pretty common, right? So it just makes the app very snappy. And also for you as a developer, it makes it quite easy. At least if you have set it up everything, then it's easy in the sense that you are just working with a local database, right? So and you read stuff, you write stuff, and then you have one syncing mechanism in the background. So yeah, it makes some things easier for you. Other things it makes more complicated, of course. I'm gonna get into this, but it makes it definitely for the user. It makes it more performant, snappier, and more reliable. So yeah, that was something that I really liked about the idea. Is it something that is absolutely required for an app like Share My Stack? No, absolutely not. But again, it was something that I think offline first is. It's of course not a new concept, right? It's a pretty old concept. Apps were built like this 30 years ago, right, on computers. But I think it's something that is gaining a lot of attention and popularity in recent months, and which is kind of like it's coming back somehow, right? And I think for good reason.
Yeah,
And that's
and I
why I
think
wanted to try it out and use it and Share My Stack.
yeah, and I had a recording with Vadim from Not Just Dev a couple of weeks ago, and he also said like when you try out new projects and side project, that's the perfect time to try something new. You don't like if you just always keep to your technology. I mean, Peter Levels can do it with his one PHP file and generate millions, but for developers, it's usually really a great place to just try out new technology, try out Next.js or Remix, or in your case, doing something with offline first and Melon database. When you try such a fun project, if you're interested in making quick money, then probably just stick to what you know, so you can ship something fast. But
Yeah.
for Share My Stack, yeah, that's like the perfect use case.
Yeah, exactly. Agree. So then the question was like how to do offline first, and then I came across Watermelon
Right.
DB. There's different solutions now, and like since I've started using this, I have seen like many solutions like came onto my radar. I think it's like if you, how is this saying? If you buy a red car, you suddenly see red cars everywhere,
Yeah.
right? So. So
Yeah.
since then, I have come across different solutions and also like tried a couple of them. I'm definitely interested in this and trying out more stuff. But Watermelon basically is based on SQLite, which is also a funny thing that SQLite is coming back big time because it's like a very very
Yeah.
old technology as well, and it seems to be the hottest database right now. So there's many projects around this, and yeah, Watermelon is one of those. So it's built on SQLite, and it basically you install it in React Native, and I described in the blog post how to do this, and then you have this local database that you can just work against, and then so you basically do just reads and writes against this database, and then you have a sync engine. And also Watermelon comes with like a reactive layer on top. So that means that you can, if you include data in your UI, it's reactive to changes in the database. So if something changes in the database, it updates the UI automatically. And then you
like
have,
as an example, if I add a new technology stack in a modal, it will automatically appear in the list on the previous page because it's like automatically updated in the background.
exactly. So if you have the same data in different places, you change it once, and then the other places update as well. Components re-render without you needing to do anything. And also, if you do the update on a different device and then you do the syncing in the backgrounds, the interface will also update if the changes come from the server and are not done locally. And this syncing of changes is also something that is at least partly done by Watermelon. It has a sync function that you can hook into basically. And the function does two things, push and pull. And it works with a change set. So it basically gives you a list of changes that you then have the responsibility to do something with in the backend. And also you can like get a list of changes from the backend and hand it to Watermelon, and then it consolidates those changes into the database. And this is where I hooked in Supabase. And what I just did is basically take this list of changes and call an RPC function in Supabase, so just a regular Postgres remote procedure call, which takes this list of changes, which is a JSON object again, and then pass this JSON and make the updates in the database. And the other way around as well, ask the database for things that have changed and compile this JSON format of changes and give it to Watermelon to do the local update. That's a bit tedious. I think it can probably be optimized somehow, but right now these functions that I used in Supabase, they are quite complex and repetitive. So that is something which I'm not totally happy about. One big drawback is if I change the data model, for example, if I add a field, I have to add it in different places now. So I have to add it to the migration in Supabase so that it exists in the database basically. Then I have to edit it into the RPC function so that it gets pulled and put into the JSON object. And then also Watermelon DB has a local schema in your app. So you create a schema in TypeScript where you describe basically what the data structure looks like. And there you have to add the new field as well. So that's something that is not ideal, but if the data model doesn't change very often, then I think it's acceptable, and then it means that it's quite easy to implement and leads to quite nice results in terms of performance and responsiveness.
I will definitely link to the post you wrote about this on your personal website. Building an offline-first React Native app with Expo, Watermelon, and Supabase. Looking at the code, it actually doesn't look too hard. I mean, of course, the RPCs always look a bit cryptical, but just getting into this. The synchronize function, on the other hand, looks pretty easy, and I feel like you could easily also replace Supabase with your own Node.js API and just handle this on your own, like handle the changes, pull and push them to your whatever database you connect to your Node.js API. It doesn't have to be Supabase, right?
Yeah, that's the nice thing about Watermelon DB. It has this sync function, which basically you plug into whatever communication with a backend you want, right? So in my case, I took an RPC call to Supabase, but it could be like a REST API that you call. So it doesn't even need to be a direct database connection. Can be like an API call to a REST API or something totally different.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. I know that with the last Expo launch party, I think, Expo also announced that they're investing heavily into this offline first concept. Did they also want to use something with Watermelon? Are you aware of what Expo was working on? Because I kind of forgot. I think I talked about this, but I forgot what exactly the tech was.
Yeah, I'm aware because I started implementing this for Feld. So it's It's an approach that is more complex, but also a lot more powerful. So what they are using is a CRDT, which stands for, I hope I get this correctly, the conflict-free replicated data type, which is more like an academic topic, to be honest, is my feeling. That is, but which is right now making its way into quite a few libraries and things to use. So the basic concept is that you have data types which are inherently conflict-free, meaning they can exist on different devices, for example, and then you can have changes. And then when the devices connect again, those changes get exchanged. So they send them to each other. And then there's an algorithm that is deterministic in the sense that taking those changes, it comes to an end state which will be the same on both the devices, right? So they don't exchange the data itself directly. It exchanges the modifications that have been done on the data. And then basically on both devices or even on multiple devices, it plays back all those changes and then comes to a conclusion that will be the same conclusion on each device. So in the end, you will have a consistent state, even though you had like diverging states while the devices were not connected. And this is something that Expo is using. There is a project which is called CR SQLite. So again, built on SQLite, which basically takes this CRDT approach and builds it as a runtime plugin into SQLite. Which again means you as a developer in the app are just talking to a SQLite database and writing your data. And then in the back end, you have this CRDT happening, meaning you sync those changes and then transfer them to the other device. And then both databases will just reconcile all those changes and end with the same result. So it's more complex than Watermelon. Yeah. With Watermelon, for example, of course, you can also have conflicts because you can work offline and then you sync. But with Watermelon, it's fairly easy. You just have then two different records and the newest one wins. So if you did a change on one device after a change on another device, this will override it. With CRDT, you can have more complex stuff like two people editing the same record and changing different fields. And this will be merged together so that you will have a record that is consisting of both those changes and converging them. So it's more powerful, but also a lot more complex.
Yeah, it definitely sounds more powerful and more sophisticated, but also more challenging. So for regular people, just getting into offline first, probably Watermelon would be a bit easier to implement based on what I see here. Based on your research, is there anything that does the same as Watermelon, like any competitor or anything you tried before arriving at Watermelon, or is it like the only thing you can recommend for React Native?
There's one thing that came up while I was researching this, and this was Elasticache. But to be honest, I have not used it and worked with it. It seems to be similar in some ways, but I can't really talk about it. Just throw it out there if people are researching. I think Watermelon and then Elasticache was the other option that came up. And then since I have implemented all of this with Share My Stack, very recently I came across PowerSync, which seems to be comparable to Watermelon in the sense that they also work with a local database and then do syncing via the backend, and they also support Supabase as a backend. So that seems comparable. That's something that I'm looking into right now, just out of curiosity. But I cannot talk about how easy or good it is. So.
Okay. Is Realm from MongoDB also in the same category, or is Realm not doing the same? Because I think I heard Realm is also working offline.
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't heard about it, I think.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
But if it's coming from MongoDB, it's probably interesting to look at this as well, yeah.
I'm talking actually to the head of the team from MongoDB today, so we'll hear more about that. Benedikt, this was awesome. This has been the longest episode recorded so far on the podcast. But I also highly enjoyed this because, we could probably keep talking about an hour now about indie hacking projects and technology. But we're going to have to wrap up now. Thank you so much for all the insights into your applications. All links will be in the show notes to Feld app, to Share My Stack. If people want to find out more about you, they can, of course, go to sharemystack.com, or they can also go to bndkt.com, which is your personal website. To wrap it up, I also want to ask 3 quick questions, as always. So first question being, what is your favorite IDE?
My favorite IDE, just VS Code.
Okay, just the good
Nothing
old VS
fancy.
Code. Yeah, what is the latest discovered package, library, or service that you could recommend?
Package, library, or service?
Can also be something you used in your projects or just watermelon.
Yeah, I would say, I know which one. And I forgot to mention this, Tinybase. So that's also something that I'm using in conjunction with CR SQLite.
For
Tinybase.
Feld.
Yes, so Tinybase is like a data store. So it's a bit comparable to state management libraries like Redux. But yeah, it's basically a data store. And what makes it very interesting is that it has these adapters for persistence. So it means you can have like a reactive UI that reacts to changes in the data store, and the data store itself can then connect to different data sources like a local database or even a remote data source, like for example AutoMerge or YJS. So communicate over WebSockets. So yeah, it's a very interesting library by an ex-Meta engineering manager.
Nice. Putting this in the show notes as well. And the last question to end this on a good note, what is something that made you happy this week?
Made me happy this week. You're putting me on the spot, and I don't want to make it seem like
it's like one of the great of all the great things happening in Singapore.
I said earlier that one of the goals of Share My Stack was that I'm looking for freelance projects, and I actually do have the first outreach in my direction without even launching the app. So that made me happy.
Nice. That's good. Congratulations. Yeah. Awesome. So thank you so much, Benedikt, for taking the time. Again, everyone check out Share My Stack. Is there any other place people should go to find out more about you?
No, just check out Share My Stack, and then you find my profile on there as well, yeah.
Awesome. And if you want to learn more about me or learn more about React Native, check out galaxies.dev with tons of courses and material on React Native. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. So thank you, Benedikt, and hope to catch you in the future when you release some more indie hacking projects and, of course, the Feld app.
Oh, yes. Thanks for having me.